Hey everybody, my name is Asia and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my anticipated releases for January, February, and March of 2021. So there's so many releases coming out in 2021 and I started making my list and barely any of them are coming out in the first quarter of the year.
They ask you how you are and you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
But I did my research and I found 15 that I think sounds super interesting and that I'm highly anticipating, and some of them I never heard of being mentioned before, so hopefully you guys find some new books that you guys want to add to your ever-growing TBRs, because we all know there's too many books and not enough time. So here you guys go. Here's more for you guys. I have a mixture of all genres. I have some thrillers, I have some romance, I have some YA fantasy. I actually have a lot of YA fantasy on this list, which is surprising because me and YA fantasy were not on that good of terms in 2020, even though most of the books that I own are YA fantasy. It's okay. We're gonna work on the relationship in 2021, okay? We're gonna work on it. But so I'm just gonna jump straight into the books, and I have the January books up first, and I have 5 books for January. So the first one that I have up is Lore by Alexandra Bracken, which comes out January 5th. And this book sounds super fascinating. I didn't read any Alexandra Bracken when she was really popular, but I do own, I think, 1 or 2 of her books. I know at one point I owned 2, but I think I might have been hauled passenger, but I still own her other book, The Darkest Minds, and I still do want to read it.
Talk. Shut up, bitch. Shut the fuck up.
But this book sounds so good. So this is about an event that occurs every 7 years where the Greek gods are now mortal and they can be killed and everything like that. And our main character, her family was killed by one of the Greek gods. So during this time she plans to get revenge. And so she teams up with Athena, who's gravely wounded, and one of her childhood best friends to go after this Greek god and kill him. So I'm really excited for this one because it sounds so good. And I want to get more into mythology related fantasy. So I'm definitely anticipating this one. The next book that I'm anticipating is Concrete Rose by Angie Thomas, and this book comes out January 12th, and this is the prequel to The Hate You Give, and we follow Maverick, who is the dad of the main character in The Hate You Give, when he's 17. And I'm really interested in this because I don't think there's as many books about black men as there are black women, and so I'm really excited to get into this and see that perspective, even though it's technically not going to be own voices in that regard because Angie Thomas is obviously not a black man. I feel like we read a lot of struggles of black people in general, and I think I've only read like 1 book about specifically a black man's struggles, so I'm really excited to read this book and just get a deeper understanding of the struggles that black men go through. The next book that I'm excited for is Wench by Maxine Kaplan, and this comes out January 19th, and I'm super excited for this book. It is a YA feminist fantasy, and basically in this book we follow this tavern wench, and she's pretty young, probably 17, 18, and she does not let anybody walk on top of her. She will tell them and put them in their place immediately, but then her guardian dies, and so they're going to take away the tavern from her since she's not of age. So she goes on this epic adventure to go appeal to the queen to let her continue having this tavern and running it. And this just sounds really cute and like it's going to be fun and fast paced. You know, different fantasies normally take after different cultures and different time periods, and so the ones with wenches kind of interest me in like taverns and things like that, like very medieval kind of times.
What the fuck are you talking about?
I really like those type of fantasies, so I'm really excited to get into this one. So this next one comes out January 21st, and that is The Burning Girls by CJ Tudor. If you've been on my channel, you might know that I was not really a big fan of The Other People by CJ Tudor. I gave it like 2 or 2.5 stars, and I really didn't like it. But I know a lot of people love CJ Tudor, and this one actually has like a really interesting premise. The other one, the premise didn't even really interest me that much. I just read it for the Literally Dead book club. So I do want to pick this one up. I believe our main character is a daughter of a pastor, and this tight-knit community kind of went through like 3 different tragic events, one 800 years ago, one like 50 years ago, and then one now. So then our main character just moved there and is trying to get a fresh start, and that's all I really know. It's a thriller, so hopefully I do like this one compared to The Other People. And yeah, I really just want to give CJ Tudor another try, so I'm definitely looking forward to this one because anything with like religion or like cults or anything like that interests me more, so I'm really excited to see how that's handled in this book. This one I'm actually so excited for, and I actually have an arc of it, so I'm really excited to be able to get to read it early because I'm so anticipating it. and it is The X-Talk by Rachel Lynn Solomon, which comes out January 26th. So this book is an adult romance, and I'm really excited for it. It's basically about these two characters that hate each other, and they're co-workers, and they work at like this multimedia kind of company. And the company comes up with this idea to create a podcast where they have two exes on and have them talk about whatever exes would talk about on a podcast.
Thanks, Captain Obvious.
And so obviously that's going to have a lot of tension, a lot of energy. So they decide to choose the two people in the company that hate each other to host it. And they're going to have a romance from there, obviously. And this is Hate to Love, or it should be Hate to Love. I really hope it's a good hate to love, because it's one of my favorite tropes if done right. And this book just sounds so good, and anything with multimedia or like a podcast in it I'm really into, so I'm definitely really anticipating this one, and I can't wait to read the art. So now I'm going to be moving on to the February books, and the first one comes out February 9th, and that is a faux love story. And this is actually a YA romance, which I don't really like as much, but it involves like food and competing businesses, which really gives me Tweet Cute vibes, and I absolutely adore Tweet Cute, so I'm hoping I'll love this one as well. And basically we follow our two main characters, and they have competing family faux businesses, and they always kind of stayed away from each other and didn't really like each other because of this business feud. And then they eventually get the opportunity to meet and speak, and they have a little romance from there. And they both have a lot of pressures from their family in different ways, so I'm excited to see how that plays out and just learn more about the culture, because this is own voices representation. Our main characters are Vietnamese American. This next one also comes out February 9th, and that is The Gilded Ones. I actually got an arc of this at the 2019 Y'all Fest, which I got a lot of arcs there. I always get a ton of arcs, and like I don't ever have the time to read them because of school, but I do have it, and I'm scared to read it because like I'm like, why did I get an arc in 2019 in November and it's not coming out all the way till February of 2021? So I'm scared that like they made some big changes or something like that, so I don't actually want to read that copy. But this one sounds really interesting. So we follow our main character who lives in a village, and to become an official member of the village, she has to do kind of like a blood ceremony, and if her blood runs red, then she could be accepted, but then her blood actually runs gold, and that means it's the color of impurity. So one day somebody shows up being like, hey, you can face your fate and stay in this village and probably be ostracized or killed, or you can come with me and help fight for the kingdom. And so she joins this group of girls that fight for the kingdom, and they all kind of have like special powers or abilities. Blood magic is just normally like a really interesting way to incorporate magic, so I'm really excited to see how blood magic is incorporated into this book. The next one comes out February 16th, and everybody's going to have this on their list, and that is A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. This is one of the only sequels that I have on this list, and this is technically the fourth book in the ACOTAR series, but the first three books follow one set of characters, and this actually follows another set of characters, but we meet them in the first three books. And this follows Nessa and Cassian, so obviously I'm really excited for this. I have not finished the ACOTAR series yet, but I've read the first two, and I love the first two. Great. I love anything Sarah puts out, so I'm really excited to get to this one. And she said that it's actually her steamiest book so far, so we like a good steam moment, and I'm really excited for this one in general. And the last book that I have for February comes out February 23rd, and that is A Dark and Hollow Star by Ashley Shuttleworth. And I'm just gonna read like the little blurb off Goodreads because it sounds so good. I don't think I can summarize it in any way that's better than this. And it says, the Cruel Prince meets City of Bones in this thrilling urban fantasy set in a magical underworld of Toronto that follows a queer cast of characters racing to stop a serial killer whose crimes could expose the hidden world of fairies to humans. Like, what? How come nobody's talking about this book? I haven't heard anybody say anything about this book, and it sounds so good. Cast of queer characters. Okay, we love to see it pop off. I love anything with serial killers in it.
You fucking need help, bro!
Like thrillers or fantasy, and it obviously has like some sort of mystery and murders going on. I love that when there's like a murder mystery element in fantasy, so we love that. And I love when there's like a secret underworld, and this has to do with fairies. Okay. We need to get to this book because ain't nobody talking about it, and it sounds so good.
Sorry.
So moving on to March, I have 6 books for March, and the first one is The Wedding Game by Megan Quinn. I'm really anticipating this one because I love when romances specifically have like a competition or reality TV show element in them. And so we follow our main character who has like one of the top best Etsy shops ever, and her brother recently got engaged, and so she decides like to tell him about this competition that's coming up. It's a new reality TV show where it's basically like a DIY wedding, you know, like you have to make everything, and I don't know necessarily how you win, but it is like a reality TV show type thing. So her brother agrees, and they decide to enter into this competition. And then her soon-to-be brother-in-law asks his brother, who is a jaded divorce lawyer, to help them out. And so it's a romance between our main character and her soon-to-be brother-in-law's brother, which seems kind of a little controversial to me, but I'm excited to see how it handles it. This kind of situation was like in the On Honeymooners as well, and I liked how it was handled in there, so I'm excited to see how it's gonna happen in this book. And we love a good DIY queen, you know, like an Etsy shop owner, an independent woman who has her own business. Like, we love to see it. We honestly love to see it. The next book comes out March 2nd, and that is Chain of Iron by Cassandra Clare, and this one is obviously the second book in the Last Hours series, and I'm excited for this one because I feel like the first one left off in a really good place where I'm like super intrigued at what's gonna happen. I wouldn't say necessarily like a cliffhanger, but very close to a cliffhanger. Okay, so I'm excited to see how it picks up in this book. The first book was just really nostalgic for me because I didn't read Cassandra Clare for like a year or two, and she was kind of one of the main things that got me into reading. She was the first author, the first series that I saw when I got to BookTube, and it really got me into BookTube in general. So like, I wouldn't probably be here without that series, but the Shadowhunter world just really means a lot to me, so I'm really excited to continue in the world. This next book also comes out March 2nd, and that is Accidentally Engaged, and this one sounds so cute. It's about our main character, and she does not really like her job, her life, whatever. Like, it's kind of boring. She just runs through the motions, but the thing that makes her really happy is baking bread. And our family wants her to get married, so her dad kind of like has this little scheme where he moves in this guy that works for him like across the hall in this apartment building. She's like, oh no, like I don't really like this guy because my dad wants me to marry him. But the guy actually takes an interest in her and like loves her bread. I know that at least he's Muslim, and I believe she is as well, so we love a good representation moment. And then they actually decide to get fake engaged into this couples baking competition so that our main character can win like the artisan bread baking class of her dream. I love a good fake engagement as well. Like, I just think any like type of fake dating, fake relationship always goes kind of interesting, and I want to see what the main male character, like why does he agree to get fake married? I understand she obviously wants to do it for this competition, but why is he agreeing? I'm curious about this, and as I said, I really do like competitions and reality TV shows and romance, and this has that kind of aspect, so I'm really excited that we're getting 2 in March. This next one also comes out March 2nd, so we have a lot of March 2nd releases, and this one's called The Lost Apothecary, which is a adult fantasy, I believe, and we follow 2 different timelines. So the first timeline, we follow a girl, and she runs this shop where she sells poisons to women so they can kill the men in their life, which kind of reminds me, I don't know if you guys watch Bailey Sarian, but she covered this story slash case of Aquatofana.
Her deadly concoction, Aquatofana,
which was a poison that this lady would sell disguised as cosmetics so they can kill the men in their lives. And this was like way back in the day, like ancient times. So this kind of reminds me of that, and this takes place in like late 1700s London, where she has a shop and she's selling poisons, and for some reason her shop gets shut down and nobody ever really knows who did anything. Nobody ever could really solve the murders. And then we follow another character in the present day who's in London, and she's a historian, and she finds a bottle on the street, and she possibly thinks it's connected to the apothecary murders. So we're following this dual timeline, and I assume that they're going to converge at some point, and I'm really just excited for this because of like that Aquatofana. Like, Miss Bailey really got me hooked because I'm like anything that sounds like something that she's talked about, I'm like, oh my gosh. So it really just seems like it might be based off that or something like that. The next one comes out March 9th, and that is Sweet and Bitter Magic, and this one is basically about this girl who was ostracized from her coven, and because of this she was cursed to never be able to love again, but she's able to love if she steals it from other people. It only lasts for a short period of time, but she can steal other people's love. And then we follow another character, and she loves her father. She's always taking care of her father, and she actually has powers, but she can't access them herself, and it's extremely dangerous magic, but she just kind of keeps it very hidden. And this plague kind of sweeps through their queendom, because it's a queendom, not a kingdom. We love that. So this plague sweeps through, and her father gets infected. So she strikes up a bargain with the first girl so she can heal him, and in return she will give her the love that she has for her father. And I believe this has a romance between the two girls in it, and I'm pretty sure that it's queer, and this just sounds really good. And obviously we can't necessarily go by comparisons, but this says that it's good for fans of Sorcery of Thorns and Girls of Paper and Fire, and I haven't read Sorcery of Thorns, but I read Girls of Paper and Fire and I loved it, so hopefully I love this one as well. And the last book that I have on this list comes out March 23rd, and that is Every Vow You Break by Peter Swanson. And in this we follow our main character who just got married and is on her honeymoon. But right before she got married, she got into like a drunken hookup with this guy. And now this guy has followed her onto her honeymoon and is basically stalking her. And I'm really excited for this because anything with like stalkers in it, I kind of love. Like thrillers with stalkers or serial killers in it, I tend to really enjoy. So hopefully I really enjoyed this one. And I've heard good things about Peter Swanson in general, so I'm excited to try out some of his work. So those are all the books that I have to mention in this video today. Tell me if you guys are anticipating anything else in this quarter that I don't know of, because I would love to know if there's something that I'm missing or any other releases that are coming out for the rest of the year. But that's all that I have for this video today, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!